Okay, the next dinim over here, when you're sitting in the middle of a meal, you're not supposed to go out and leave your place without benching. Even to finish the meal in a different room. There's a lot of details in this din, which I don't want to go into it now. The general din people need to know, in the place where you start your meal, that's where you really should finish the meal. You shouldn't start going into other rooms. Unless, if a person had in mind when they washed, and they made amaitzi, they had in mind they're going to be going, let's say, to a sheva brachas, or to finish the meal somewhere else, then it's okay. But otherwise, when you eat a meal, you're supposed to eat the meal and bench in the place where you ate instead of going to different places. Now what happens if somebody is eating a meal and they, in the middle of davening, in the middle of the meal, they realize they have to go daven mincha. So let's say they're davening at home, or for that matter, even if they go to shul, when they come back home, you don't have to make hameitzi again, because davening is not considered a separation in the middle of the meal. But you have to be careful, make sure your hands didn't touch anything that would demand, to wash it until Yadayim again. But let's say somebody was eating bread, and they washed for bread, and in the middle of the meal, they had to use the restroom. Okay, so then when they finish the restroom and they make ashiyatzar, they have to wash again for bread without a bracha. Okay, so you have to wash again if somebody used the bathroom in the middle. So when you eat, that's only, by the way, if you want to continue eating bread. Let's say it's already the end of the meal, you're not eating more bread, so then you don't have to wash again without a bracha because you're not eating bread.
What if you don't eat bread, but you do something else, you do forks and knives?
What do you mean?
You're not eating any more bread.
So then you don't have to wash. You only have to wash because you're eating.
Different food
No, yeah, it doesn't matter. The different food you don't have to wash for bread. Only for bread you have to wash for bread. But if somebody uses the bathroom, they have to wash again without a bracha.
Does it matter how long the bathroom is? Small, large? Or
No, it doesn't matter. You just have to wash without a bracha.
After washing for the restroom.
Yeah. So it says in Allah, how do you do it? The most simple, most practical way is you wash your hands like after going to the bathroom, you make a shiyotza, and then you wash again like for bread without a bracha.
When you come from mincha and you go back, you have to have more.
What?
Bread. You have to have more bread. Let's say you come from mincha and you go back.
Technically not. If it's not if you're still going to be eating more food, you don't have to.
How about if you're living in an apartment and it's like Friday night, and then you're eating and that guest which is not observant comes and he rings, you have to go out the outside of the gate and open the gate and come back.
Yeah, that's not a problem because when you left, you knew you were coming back, and it's not that you're eating somewhere else to finish the meal.
So even if you go to the gate,
You don't have to rewash again. No. Okay, another interesting din. What happens if somebody, and it's when you're in your own home, you finished eating, and you thought to yourself, okay, I'm done. I'm ready to bench. And then you change your mind, or you want to continue eating or drinking. So then you have to make a bracha on that food already. Once you had in mind you're finishing eating, especially if you said, okay, let's bench, that means you're ready, and then you change your mind. Now, that doesn't apply if you're a guest in somebody's home. Let's say you're a guest in somebody's home and you have the full meal and then they serve dessert. And after dessert, you say, okay, now they're probably going to bench. And then they bring out tea and cake, whatever, they bring out more desserts. So the din is when you're in somebody else's house, you have really no opinion of your own. Your opinion is whatever they give you is what you're going to eat. So then it's not like that you broke the meal. But if somebody says, like in your own, or by yourself, you're eating by yourself, you washed, you're eating a meal, and then in your mind you said, that's it. And then you change your mind even to drink water, you have to make a bracha on the water.
What if your wife surprises you?
So again, if you're eating and your wife surprises you that she's giving some more food, again, if you're relying, that whatever your wife gives is it. But if, let's say, that's it, as far as you're concerned, that's it, and you want to change your mind, then you're going to have to make a new bracha, even on water. Because now, the hameitzi that you made finishes once you had your mind that you're not going to be eating anymore. Okay, now, what is covered with the hameitzi in the meal? You make hameitzi, we learned already, it covers primarily all food and all drinks, but food that you're basically eating to fill yourself up with. There's certain things in halacha called things that lafis ben pasta, accompanied bread. That means people eat it to fill themselves up. Fish, meat, eggs, cheese, things like that people eat to fill themselves up. So then when a person makes a meitzi, that covers everything in the meal. Things that are not eaten to fill you up, and we'll soon give you examples of that, then hameitzi doesn't cover it. So let's say, we mentioned this in a number of times, let's say you're eating shalosh shudas downstairs, okay? And you take a piece of watermelon. Now, let me go back a second. Generally speaking, dessert is not eaten to fill you up. Dessert is eaten for enjoyment. So let's say at the end of a meal, somebody gets served ice cream, or they get served fruit, or they get served cake. We'll see is a shaila and halacha. No, not a shaila, it depends why you're eating it. But let's say you get applesauce, whatever, fruits for dessert. So because they're not being eaten to fill you up, so on that dessert you have to make a very parades. Somebody gives you ice cream at the end of the meal, or usually, generally speaking, desserts. So again, it's not there to fill you up, it's there to wash down the food or whatever, one second. So then you have to make a new bracha on the food. When it comes to cake, I'll tell you what it says in halacha. In halacha it says, it depends why you're eating the cake. If you're eating the cake because you're still hungry and you want it to fill you up, so then the din is you don't make a bracha on the cake. If you're eating the cake because it's a good cream pie, and you're not really hungry still, you're eating it because it's enjoyable, according to the Shulchan Aruch, you have to make a bracha on it. If it's, though this is another interesting din, if it's what's called pasubah b'kitzur, according to one opinion, if it's, let's say, a Danish, thick dough, not pourable batter, thick batter, and it's with fruit juices, then because some poskim hold you have to make a meitzi on it anyway, so then you don't make a bracha on it at the end of the meal. But if you eat, let's say, 7-layer cake or things like that, so then, if again, Shulchan Aruch says it depends why you're eating. If you're eating it because you're still hungry, you do not make a bracha, because then again, you're eating it to fill you up. If you're eating the idun or latiny because it's enjoyable, then you do make a bracha. Now, based on what we just said, what happens if somebody in the middle of shalosh shudas takes a piece of watermelon? Now, in the middle of the meal, not at the end of the meal, in the middle of shalosh shudas, there's a watermelon, you're still eating, but you take a piece of watermelon. That watermelon is not covered with hamaitzi, because you're not eating the watermelon, it's not something to fill you up. So therefore, if somebody takes a fruit, or a piece of watermelon, or something like that, during the meal, they have to make hadama, even if it's not dessert. You're going to be eating more bread later. But nevertheless, you take a piece of watermelon, you have to make a bracha, break hadama on the watermelon. Or if it's a grape or eight, whatever the fruit is.
Even if it's used, like your mom is eating it to help.
No, one second. Now what happens if somebody is having, I'm using a crazy case, but just for clarification. I'm going to be eating bread with watermelon. That's my meal. Bread and watermelon. Okay.
And feta cheese, it goes together.
No. Feta.
In Iran, they see
What?
the watermelon with cheese and bread or grape.
Okay, now, then the dinner is like this. If the meal is consisting of bread and watermelon, so it says in halacha, the best thing to do, there's a lot of different opinions, but the best thing halacha says, now Dr. Rebbe brings it down also, the best thing to do is when you take the first piece of watermelon, take a piece of bread with it. Because the first bite of watermelon you're taking with the piece of bread, then you don't make a bracha on the watermelon, and for the rest of the watermelon you don't make a bracha. So let's say a guy is eating peaches and cream, or whatever, again, so these types of things, when that becomes your meal, so obviously you can't say you're just eating it because it tastes good. You're eating it actually to fill you up, but because it's something that should normally not eaten to fill you up, so then you have to make The best thing is take a piece of bread the first time you're eating the piece of watermelon or fruit, and then you don't have to make a bracha.
But if it's a Shabbos or a Yom Tov where you want to say more brachas to reach the 100, so in that case,
What do you want to do?
Well, say bracha on watermelon, even if it's part of your meal. Just saying.
No, if it's part of the meal, you're not supposed to make a bracha on it. But watermelon, I hope watermelon is not part of a Shabbos meal.
You told me way before that on a cholent, on Shabbos, to make Hadama on Shabbos, because you want to be married.
That's not exactly what I said.
If you see it.
When things are mixed together, okay? Let's say you have a cholent, and in the cholent is potatoes, barley, beans, and meat. I'm not giving out the recipe for the cholent. But let's say the cholent is potatoes, barley, beans, and meat. Now, if they're all equal to you, so the din is you make a bracha on the majority. If the majority is Adama, you make Adama and you don't make a shahakol. In fact, if somebody first made Adama, they're not allowed to make a shahakol, it'll be a bracha in vain. What happens though, if somebody likes the meat better? They like the meat better, but the majority is Adama. So then halacha says, if you like meat better, you can take out, before you make the brachas, you take out a piece of meat, you make a shahakol on the meat, and then you make adama on the rest. But if you made adama on the rest, you can't make a shahakol on the meat. So by Shabbos, where you want to add, that's why I said, by the way, hello? The case was, you like the meat better than, what happens you don't like the meat better than the potatoes? You like they're all equal. Then you're not allowed to make a bracha on the meat.
But you see Adama, you see Jai.
Yeah, but it's all mixed together. It's one food. You have what's called ikar v'tov. We're going to get to those dinim.
Easier to say shakol and cover.
No, you're not allowed to do that.
If you like both,
It says in Shulchan.
You say shakol and you're covered.
Yeah, that's why it says in Shulchan Aruch. The Alter Rebbe says a person is not allowed to just go make a shakol on anything. He says, go and learn the laws of brachas. That's what he says. When do you make a shahakol? If there's an argument in halacha, is it this or this? So then, by rice, I mean, many people make a mezainis of rice, like the Mishnah Berurah. But the Alter Rebbe doesn't pass like that. The Alter Rebbe says it could be mezainis, it could be adama, it could be shakol. So the Alter Rebbe writes, because it's an argument in halacha what the bracha should be, so the best thing is only to eat it during a meal, when you wash. But if not, you make a shahakol. So then when there's an argument in halacha what bracha something should be, then you can make a shahakol. But not to make a shahakol in the morning and bury nefashos at night, and or you wash right after Yom Kippur and you bench right before Yom Kippur. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily work like that. The bracha of cholent is the shul cholent, that I'm acquainted with the ingredients a little bit. The shul cholent is the adama. If you like a piece of meat and you have a piece of meat that's noticeable, if you want, you could take out a piece of meat first and make a shahakol, and then you can make adama on the rest. But the bracha on the shul cholent is adama.
So that's an area of the food. If it's like a dessert food, and even if you're doing it to be said, like on.
No, it depends what. If somebody's eating ice cream to be full, no, then it's only cake.
How about fruit tart? Is it cake?
But that's cake. But that's cake.
You don't say mezona Adama, whatever is on top of it.
No.
So ice cream.
If somebody eats a fruit tart, which is a little, what do you call this? Pie crust with fruits on top, the bracha is mezainis. You're not now. If somebody likes fruit better, they can first make a eight on a fruit and then make a mezainis on the thing. But anytime you have a mezainis, and the mezainis is there for taste, so then it's automatically the primary.